Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive for business owners and those C-level execs out there. That's right.
I'm Lex.
And I'm your expert.
And we are here to explore a topic that's super critical
Yeah.
to success in today's market.
Absolutely.
And that is unlocking your creative potential.
For sure.
So we're diving into research and real-world examples to understand how to cultivate and manage creativity in your business.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
it's not just about, coming up with that next big thing, although that's great too.
Yeah.
It's really about fostering a culture
Right.
where innovation thrives and you and your teams can generate creative sparks that give you an edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see how to overcome fears that block creativity,
Yeah.
how to structure your teams
Yeah.
for creative output and cultivate that intrinsic motivation that fuels those groundbreaking ideas.
Love it. All right, so our first stop on this deep dive takes us into the world of design thinking
Okay.
with Tom and David Kelly's book, Reclaim Your Creative Confidence.
And their core argument is that we are all born creative.
Right.
Picture those kindergartners finger painting with that wild abandon.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the way,
Yeah.
a lot of us, we lose that spark.
We do.
Have you felt that?
Oh, absolutely.
That creative confidence kind of dwindling over time?
For sure. It's incredibly common.
Yeah.
The Kellys identify 4 fears
Okay.
that tend to kind of creep in and stifle our creativity.
As we get older.
Yes, as we age, and
Yeah.
we start fearing the messy unknown,
Right.
worrying about being judged.
Yep.
We hesitate to take that first step,
Mm-hmm.
and we feel anxious about losing control.
Yeah, it's like that inner critic takes over, right?
Sure.
Starts whispering doubts and says, play it
that-
safe, be careful, don't do anything too crazy.
Yeah.
And suddenly that inner kindergartner's hiding under the table.
Yeah, they're stifled. They don't want to come out and play.
Right, exactly. But the Kellys offer some really practical strategies for quieting that inner critic
They
and reclaiming that creative confidence.
One of their key insights is based on psychologist Albert Bandura's
Okay,
work on overcoming phobias
okay.
through this thing called guided mastery.
Guided mastery, interesting.
So essentially what you do is you break down a challenge,
Mhm.
like public speaking or launching a new product,
Uh-huh.
into smaller, more manageable steps, and each small win builds your confidence,
Right.
making that larger challenge feel less overwhelming.
So it's like that old saying, how do you eat an elephant?
Exactly.
One bite at a time. You wouldn't just charge head on at a creative challenge.
Yep.
But instead, you break it down
Break it down.
and you kind of build momentum through those small victories.
Exactly.
Now let's look at the first fear that they highlight, which is fear of the messy unknown. How do we get comfortable venturing outside of our comfort zones?
The Kellys really emphasize the importance of getting out of the office,
Okay.
talking to customers,
Yeah.
and experiencing things firsthand.
Yeah.
They call it anthropological field work. But for our listeners, think of it as doing real-world research, immersing yourself in the lives of your customers to understand their needs and their pain points.
Because spreadsheets and market reports
Totally.
can only tell you so much.
For sure.
Sometimes you got to get out there
Absolutely.
and see how people are interacting
Exactly.
with your product or service.
They illustrate this point with a great story
Okay.
about the Embrace Infant Warmer,
Okay.
which is a low-cost incubator designed by students at Stanford's D School.
Wow.
And these students realized they couldn't design an effective incubator for
Right.
developing countries from the comfort of their California classrooms.
Right, of course not.
They had to get out.
Right.
So they packed their bags, headed to rural Nepal,
Wow.
where they spent time with families and doctors,
Uh-huh.
observing firsthand the challenges
Yeah.
of providing neonatal care in a
Uh-huh.
resource-limited setting. And it was in the field that they discovered
Yeah.
that critical insight
What was it?
that the problem wasn't just the cost of traditional incubators,
Right.
but the reliance on electricity, which was often unreliable in the areas where they were most needed.
So you would never have gotten that insight
Never.
just sitting in Silicon Valley.
Never.
You had to get out there.
You have to go into the field.
Yeah. Wow.
And the result was a game-changing solution. A portable, affordable incubator that didn't require electricity.
That's incredible. And it really underscores the point of getting out of our bubbles
Yes.
and then embracing the messy realities of our customers' lives.
That's right.
But what about that fear of judgment?
Okay.
You've all been there, right?
Uh-huh.
That voice in our head
Yeah,
telling us our ideas are stupid or that we'll be laughed at.
for sure.
How do we silence that inner critic?
The Kellys suggest a couple of strategies here.
Okay.
First, they encourage us to defer judgment,
Okay.
both our own and that of others.
Okay.
So when you're brainstorming, you just write down every idea, even the crazy ones.
Even the crazy ones.
Don't censor yourself or your
Yeah.
team.
It's like giving yourself permission to be ridiculous for a little while.
Exactly.
And you know what I found in my own creative process?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, that's a stupid idea,
Yeah.
I'll say, that's an interesting idea. What if we?
Yes.
And try to build on it, even if it seems initially outlandish.
And when giving feedback,
Yeah.
frame critiques in a more constructive way. So instead of saying, that'll never work,
Right.
try saying, I like X and I wish you.
Right.
It kind of softens the blow
It does.
and encourages more of an open dialogue.
It really is all about the delivery.
It is.
Like you could say the same thing.
Totally. It's all in the delivery.
How you say it makes a big difference.
It does.
And they share another story to illustrate this point.
Okay.
They were working with Air New Zealand
Uh-huh.
to reimagine the long-haul flight experience.
Yeah.
And to get the creative juices flowing.
Yes.
They started with a brainstorming session
Okay.
where the executives were encouraged to come up with the craziest ideas imaginable.
Okay.
And this deliberate suspension of judgment
Uh-huh.
led to the development of the Sky Couch,
Interesting.
which is that ingenious lie-flat seat for economy class that lets you stretch out and actually get some sleep on a long flight.
Awesome.
So it shows how
Yes.
sometimes that most outlandish concept
Yeah.
can spark a truly innovative solution.
It really can.
Okay, so we've tackled the messy unknown and the fear of judgment.
Okay.
But then there's the fear of that first step.
Oh, yeah.
I know I've been paralyzed by that before.
Uh-huh.
You're staring at a blank page
Yep.
or a challenging problem and feeling overwhelmed and not knowing where to begin.
It can be very overwhelming.
Yeah, what's the antidote to that feeling?
Well, the Kellys emphasize the importance of starting small.
Okay.
Find a piece of the problem
Yeah.
that you can tackle immediately. And their mantra is, don't get ready, get started.
I love that.
So instead of getting bogged down in the planning and the preparation, find one small action you can take right now and build momentum from there.
It's about breaking down that initial barrier to entry.
It is.
It reminds me of the writer Anne Lamott's advice.
Oh, yeah.
Bird by bird, buddy, just take it bird by bird.
One step at a time.
Right.
And they also talk about setting crazy deadlines.
Okay.
So they tell a story about John Keefe,
Okay.
who created a real-time bus tracking system in just 24 hours.
Wait, he built a whole bus tracking system
I did.
in a single day.
He did.
What?
And he didn't even work for the transit authority.
He had just saw a need and was like, I'm going to fix this.
He saw a problem and he took the initiative to solve it.
Wow.
And that kind of urgency can be incredibly motivating,
Right?
pushing you to bypass those initial feelings of overwhelm
Yeah, just dive in.
and just dive in.
So we're seeing a theme here.
Yeah.
A lot of this is about mindset, about shifting our perspective and embracing a more experimental approach. Absolutely. And that brings us to the final fear the Kellys address.
Yeah.
The fear of losing control.
Yes.
As leaders, we're used to being in control.
Right.
We have the answers,
Yeah,
but in the realm of creativity, that can be a real hindrance.
absolutely.
So how do we let go of our need for control
Right.
and allow for those unexpected breakthroughs?
They encourage us to embrace collaboration
Okay.
and to be open to ideas from unexpected sources.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes the best solutions come from the people we least expect,
Right.
the people outside our usual circles.
It's about recognizing that you don't have a monopoly on good ideas.
Exactly, and it's also about being willing to let go
Yeah, I agree.
of ideas that aren't working, even if they're your own ideas.
Right.
So clinging to a bad idea
Yeah.
just because it's yours is a recipe for stagnation.
And, you know, they use the example of Open IDEO,
Yes.
which is a platform that they launched
Uh-huh.
to connect people from all over the world
Yeah.
to solve problems collaboratively.
Yes.
It's about relinquishing some of that control, opening yourself up to a wider pool of perspectives and trusting the process.
That's it.
Okay, this has been really insightful. We've talked about reclaiming our creative confidence and overcoming those common fears that hold us back.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious,
Yeah.
how does this creative process actually work?
Right.
I think to answer that,
Yeah.
we need to turn to the work of Teresa Amabile,
Okay.
who has done some fascinating research on the nuts and bolts of creativity, particularly in the workplace.
I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, me too. Let's explore her findings after this quick break.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So Teresa Amabile's research really digs into what makes creativity tick, particularly in business.
Yeah, because a brilliant idea that just stays trapped in someone's head
Right.
doesn't really help the bottom line.
Exactly. Amabile actually defines creativity in business as the ability to generate ideas that are not only original,
Right.
but also appropriate, useful, and actionable.
So it's not enough to be the office eccentric
Right.
with all the wacky ideas.
Right.
You got to be able to turn those ideas into something that moves the business forward.
Exactly. You need solutions,
Solutions, exactly.
not just ideas.
Now, you mentioned Amabile breaks down creativity into 3 components.
I did.
Tell me more about that.
So those components are expertise,
Okay.
creative thinking skills, and motivation.
Okay, let's unpack each of those.
Okay.
So expertise, that's probably the most straightforward.
Yes.
It's about your knowledge base, your skills, your experience in a particular field.
That's right.
So the deeper your expertise, the richer the foundation you have for generating those creative solutions.
Exactly.
It makes sense. You can't really innovate in an area you know nothing about.
You can't.
You need that foundational understanding to build upon.
You need a foundation.
So what about creative thinking skills?
Okay.
Is that something people are born with?
Right.
Or can you actually develop those skills?
Well, some people are naturally more inclined to think outside the box. Amabile believes these skills can absolutely be honed and developed.
Okay.
Over time, it's about learning to be more flexible in your thinking,
Right.
to challenge assumptions, to make connections between seemingly unrelated things.
So looking at a problem from multiple angles,
Exactly.
trying to break free from those conventional patterns of thinking.
That's right.
But how do you actually do that? Any tips for our listeners who are trying to boost their creative thinking skills?
Absolutely. Tons of techniques out there.
Yeah.
Things like brainstorming, mind mapping, even taking a walk in nature.
Right.
But one of the simplest and most effective strategies is to just ask
Well,
what if questions.
What if?
What if we did this differently? What if we combined these 2 ideas? What if we turned this problem on its head?
yeah.
So it's about challenging those ingrained assumptions and opening yourself up to new possibilities.
What if 2 simple words that can unlock
I love it.
so much creative potential?
Me too.
Now let's talk about that third component, motivation. I can imagine even the most knowledgeable and skilled individuals
Yes.
can hit a wall if they lack motivation.
Absolutely. You can have all the expertise and creative thinking skills in the world,
Right.
but if you're not motivated to use them,
Nothing's going to happen.
nothing's going to happen. And this is where Amabile's research gets really interesting.
There.
She distinguishes between 2 types of motivation,
Right.
extrinsic and intrinsic.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the difference and why does it matter for creativity?
So extrinsic motivation comes from those external factors, those rewards or punishments.
Okay.
So think bonuses, promotions, or even fear of getting fired.
Right, the classic carrot and stick approach.
Exactly. It's about doing something because you want to gain something or avoid a negative consequence.
So I'm guessing that while extrinsic motivators can get people moving,
Yeah.
they're not necessarily the key to unlocking true creativity.
You're exactly right. Extrinsic motivation can be effective for certain tasks.
Right.
But when it comes to creativity, it can actually backfire, often leading to a more transactional approach to work.
Oh.
People focus on meeting those specific requirements or hitting those targets,
Right.
but they're not necessarily engaged or passionate.
They're just going through the motions.
Precisely. And that's where intrinsic motivation comes in.
Okay.
This is the motivation that comes from within,
Uh-huh.
from a genuine interest in the work itself.
Okay.
The satisfaction of creating something new,
Right.
the joy of learning and growing.
I love that.
It's about doing something because you love it,
Yeah.
because it's meaningful to you, because it aligns with your values.
So this is about tapping into that passion,
Exactly.
that inner drive. But how do we cultivate this intrinsic motivation within our teams?
Right.
Do we just tell people to be more passionate about spreadsheets and sales reports?
That's a good question. It's definitely more nuanced than that.
Right.
Fortunately, Amabile's research doesn't just highlight the importance of intrinsic motivation. It also provides a roadmap for how to cultivate it.
I like roadmaps.
So she identifies 6 specific managerial practices that can make a real difference.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me the rundown.
All right, so the first is challenge.
Challenge. Okay.
It's about giving people assignments that stretch their abilities and ignite their passion.
Okay.
You want to find that sweet spot between boredom and overwhelm,
Yeah.
a task that's challenging enough to be engaging but not so daunting that it leads to discouragement.
You don't want to be stuck doing busy work.
No.
But being thrown into the deep end without support can be equally demotivating.
Right.
It's all about finding that balance.
It is.
So challenge is the first practice.
Yeah.
What's next?
The second practice is freedom.
Freedom.
Now, this doesn't mean letting people run wild without any direction.
Right.
It's about providing autonomy
Uh-huh.
over how work gets done while still maintaining clear goals and expectations.
Okay.
Think of it like this. You might choose the mountain you want your team to climb, but you allow them to choose their own path up the mountain.
So giving them ownership over the process.
That's right.
Trusting them to figure out the best way to reach the summit.
Exactly. And freedom also involves allowing time for exploration and incubation.
Right.
Creativity needs time to simmer,
That's
for those unexpected connections to form.
Right.
Don't rush the process. Give people the space they need to think, to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from them.
This is resonating with me sometimes as leaders. We're so focused on efficiency and hitting those deadlines
Yeah.
that we forget to give our teams the breathing room they need to be truly creative.
That's right.
Okay, so we have challenge and freedom.
We do.
What's the third practice?
The third practice is resources.
Resources.
And this is a big one.
Yeah, especially in today's often resource-constrained environment.
It is. Automobile actually found that while adding resources above a certain threshold
Right.
doesn't necessarily boost creativity, restricting resources below that threshold can dampen it significantly.
So you need to find that balance.
You do.
Starving creative projects is a recipe for disaster.
It is, but it's not just about throwing money at a problem.
Right.
It's about being thoughtful and strategic with how you allocate resources.
Uh-huh.
Do your teams have the time they need?
The tools, the training, the support.
That's right, making sure they have what they need to do their best work.
Okay, what about the fourth practice?
The fourth practice is work group features.
Work group features.
This is all about the team itself, its composition, its dynamics, its culture.
Okay.
Amable stresses the importance of cognitive diversity.
So you want teams with people who have different thinking styles,
Yeah.
different backgrounds, different perspectives.
Different perspectives. Yes, if everyone in the room thinks the same way,
Yeah.
you're going to get more of the same.
More of the same old stuff.
Right, you need that creative friction
Right.
to spark new ideas.
And she also emphasizes the need for a supportive and collaborative team environment
She does.
where people feel safe to share their ideas
Absolutely.
without fear of judgment.
You want to create a culture where it's okay to experiment, to fail, to learn from mistakes.
That psychological safety is so crucial.
It is.
It allows people to take risks, to push boundaries, to be their most creative selves.
Exactly.
Without worrying about being shut down or ridiculed.
Right.
Okay, we've covered challenge freedom resources and work group features.
We have.
What are the last two practices?
So the fifth practice is supervisory encouragement.
Supervisory encouragement.
Okay, this is about how managers interact with their teams, how they provide feedback and support.
Yeah.
And Emma Beale found that managers who actively encourage and recognize creative efforts, even those that don't succeed, foster a much more positive and productive creative environment.
So it's about celebrating the process as much as the outcome.
Exactly. It's about sending the message that taking risks and trying new things is valued,
Right.
even if it doesn't always lead to immediate success.
And those failures are often valuable learning opportunities.
They are.
Which brings us to the final practice.
Yes.
Organizational support.
Okay.
This is about the broader company culture.
Yeah.
How much does the organization as a whole value and support creativity?
This one is crucial.
Yeah.
Emma Beale's research shows that creativity flourishes in organizations where it's explicitly valued and rewarded.
Okay.
This means having systems and processes in place that encourage and support creative endeavors.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly, making creativity part of the company DNA.
Right, embedding it into the very fabric of the organization.
That's right.
Now, this has been a fantastic overview of Emma Beale's findings.
Yeah.
Really solid framework for understanding the dynamics of creativity
Yes.
within a business setting.
Uh-huh.
But I'm curious,
Yeah.
how do these principles actually play out in the real world?
Right.
For that, I think we need to turn to a company
Okay.
that's become synonymous with creativity and innovation.
All right. Love it.
Let's dive into Pixar's secrets to success after this.
Pixar, they've given us Toy Story, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Films that have captured the hearts and imaginations
For sure.
of audiences worldwide, and they just seem to have this knack
Yeah.
for consistently producing hits.
Right.
Each one bursting with creativity and originality.
How do they do it?
Right.
That's the million-dollar question. They seem to have cracked the code.
They have.
For fostering a culture of creativity.
Yes, and Ed Catmull,
Yeah.
Pixar's president,
Yeah.
has been pretty open about what makes their creative engine run so smoothly.
What does he say?
One of the key principles that he emphasizes
No,
is the power of collective creativity.
collective creativity.
He believes that Pixar's success isn't just about individual brilliance.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where people can work together effectively,
Uh-huh.
where those diverse perspectives and talents can collide and combine
Right.
to generate truly groundbreaking ideas.
So it's not about the lone genius toiling away in isolation.
Not at all.
It's about creating a system
It is.
that supports and amplifies individual creativity,
Yes.
allowing it to flourish within a collaborative framework.
That's it. Catmull actually argues that even the most brilliant idea needs a talented team to bring it to life.
Right.
It's like a single spark might ignite the fire,
Okay.
but it takes a collective effort
Yeah.
to fan the flames and keep that creative fire burning.
I like that metaphor.
And Pixar has developed some really innovative practices for fostering this kind of collaborative creativity.
Okay, tell me more about these practices.
One of their core principles
Yeah.
is empowering creatives.
Okay.
At Pixar, it's the filmmakers, not the executives, who have the ultimate authority
Wow.
over the creative vision for a film.
So no studio execs meddling with the story,
No meddling.
dictating what should happen or how it should unfold.
Ideally not.
That's amazing.
Catmull believes that the purest, most authentic creative vision comes from the people closest to the project.
Right. The people who are living and breathing that story,
Right.
the people pouring their hearts and souls into bringing it to life.
It makes sense. You want to give the artists
Yes.
the freedom and autonomy to do what they do best.
Exactly. To tell stories that resonate with audiences
Right.
on a deep emotional level.
Absolutely. And to support this,
Yes.
they've structured their development process in a very unique way.
They have.
So tell me how they do it.
Instead of having a separate development department churning out movie ideas,
Uh-huh.
they actually assemble small cross-functional teams led by directors to refine their own concepts.
So it's about nurturing ideas from the ground up,
Yes.
allowing those ideas to evolve organically through collaboration and feedback rather than imposing a predetermined vision.
Exactly. And another key ingredient
Right.
is the creation of a strong peer culture.
Peer culture. What does that look like in practice?
It's about creating an environment where people feel safe and supported in sharing their work openly.
In providing honest feedback and in helping each other grow as creatives.
So essential for fostering a truly collaborative environment. But honestly, it sounds a little utopian, doesn't it?
It does a little bit.
I mean, we've all worked on teams where egos clash,
Right.
where competition trumps collaboration.
Yeah.
Can you really get a bunch of creative types
Huh?
with their big personalities and strong opinions to genuinely support each other?
That's a great question, and it is definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But Pixar seems to have figured out a way to make it work.
Okay.
And one of their key tools for fostering this peer culture
Yeah.
is something they call the brain trust.
The brain trust. Okay, I've heard of this.
Yeah.
What is it and how does it work?
So it's a group of Pixar's most experienced filmmakers,
Okay.
including legends like John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, and Pete Docter.
Wow, the heavy hitters.
The heavy hitters.
The ones who have consistently delivered those box office smashes
That's right.
and critical darlings.
Yes. And when a director is facing challenges with their film, they can actually call a brain trust meeting,
Yeah.
show their work in progress, and get candid, constructive feedback
Yeah.
from these master storytellers.
That's got to be a little intimidating, isn't it?
It can be a little bit.
Having your work scrutinized by those legends,
Yeah.
I can imagine feeling a bit vulnerable, maybe even defensive.
Yeah, but the beauty of the brain trust is that it's not about judgment or control.
Okay.
These seasoned filmmakers, they offer their insights and perspectives, but they don't have any authority over the project.
So it's about mentorship and guidance,
That's right.
about harnessing the collective wisdom of the group,
Yes.
not about imposing one person's vision
Right.
or stifling another's creativity.
And because the brain trust members know they don't have the final say,
Right.
they can be brutally honest
Yeah.
in their feedback. They're not
Yeah.
trying to protect anyone's ego or push their own agenda.
Their sole focus is on making the film the best it can be. even if that means challenging the director's assumptions
Right.
or suggesting radical changes.
Exactly. And another great example of Pixar's peer culture is their daily review process,
Okay.
which they call dailies.
Dailies, tell me about this.
So it's a system where every single day,
Yeah.
animators gather
Uh-huh.
to show their unfinished work to the entire crew.
The entire crew.
And here's the key. Everyone, regardless of their role or seniority,
Yeah.
is encouraged to give feedback.
Wow. That sounds intense, but also incredibly valuable
It is.
to have that constant feedback loop.
Yes.
To catch those potential problems early on.
Yeah.
To get input from multiple perspectives. It's like having a built-in quality control mechanism
It is.
that's driven by collective ownership and shared responsibility.
Exactly. It keeps everyone on the same page.
Right.
It fosters a sense of shared ownership over the project
Uh-huh.
and helps to identify and address those creative roadblocks
Right.
before they become major obstacles.
And I imagine it helps break down those silos that often exist between departments,
It does.
fostering a more collaborative and integrated approach to filmmaking.
Absolutely.
So in addition to empowering creatives
Yes.
and fostering a strong peer culture, Catmull also talks about the importance of free and open communication.
He does.
He believes that people should be able to communicate directly with anyone in the company,
Yeah.
regardless of their position or department.
Regardless. So no rigid hierarchies, no bureaucratic roadblocks.
Right. You don't need to go through 5 layers of management
No.
just to get an answer to a simple question.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture where information flows freely and quickly,
Uh-huh.
where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas and concerns,
Right.
and where problems can be addressed efficiently and effectively.
Now, I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking,
Uh-huh.
well, that's a well and good for Pixar.
Yeah.
They're this animation giant
Right.
with unique culture and a ton of resources. But can these principles actually be applied to other businesses?
Right.
Especially those operating in different industries or with tighter budgets?
That's a great question,
Yeah.
and one that Catmull himself acknowledges.
Right.
He recognizes that Pixar's culture is very specific to their industry and their company. However, he does believe that many of the underlying principles, things like empowering creatives, fostering collaboration, and creating a culture of trust and open communication
Yeah.
can be adapted and applied to other organizations.
It's about finding ways to translate
You did?
those core principles into practices that work
Exactly.
within your specific context.
Right. It might require some experimentation, some adaptation, but the fundamental ideas remain the same.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's about cultivating a culture
Yeah.
where creativity isn't just tolerated,
It's celebrated.
it's celebrated, it's nurtured, it's rewarded. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe to take risks,
Yes.
to experiment, to challenge the status quo, and to contribute their unique talents and perspectives to the collective good.
I love it.
So what does all this mean for our listeners?
Yeah.
Those business owners and C-level executives who are tuning in today?
Right.
I think the key takeaway here is that fostering a culture of creativity isn't about magic or luck.
Yeah.
It's about deliberate choices, about creating the right environment,
Right.
about empowering people to do their best work.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that creativity isn't just for the creative departments.
Right.
It's a vital ingredient for success in any business that wants to thrive
Yes.
in today's ever-changing,
Uh-huh.
increasingly competitive landscape.
And remember, cultivating this culture doesn't require a massive overhaul or a bottomless budget.
Wow.
It starts with small changes.
Yeah.
With how you communicate, how you delegate, how you provide feedback, how you celebrate success, and how you learn from setbacks.
Absolutely. It's about shifting your mindset, embracing experimentation, and trusting your team.
Trust in your team.
So to our listeners, we challenge you to take these insights and apply them to your own businesses.
Yeah.
Embrace that messy unknown. Challenge those assumptions and create an environment where that inner kindergartner,
Yes.
that source of playful, unbounded creativity
Love.
can thrive. You never know what amazing things you and your teams might create.
That's right.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of creativity and innovation.
It does.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Me too.
A huge thanks to our expert for sharing their expertise with us today.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yes.
We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas and to experiment with different approaches to unlocking your own creative potential
Absolutely.
and that of your teams. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that follow button and share this episode with your friends and colleagues.
Yes, please.
The more we can spread these ideas, the more we can cultivate a world where creativity flourishes, where businesses thrive, and where innovation knows no bounds. Until next time.